Japan is struggling to deal with the impact of the most powerful earthquake on record that hit the country's northeast coast today, triggering a massive tsunami that swept away everything in its path.
At least 22 people have been killed, and a tsunami warning has been issued for the entire Pacific Basin except the mainland U.S. and Canada. Japan is used to earthquakes, but nothing like this. A disaster on a biblical scale, and the biggest to hit the country since it began keeping records 140 years ago. The quake, measuring a whopping 8.9 on the Richter scale, triggered this massive tsunami that swept across huge swaths of farmland in the northeast of the country this afternoon. It swallowed up houses, cars, and everything in its path after the quake hit 130 kilometers east of Sendai City on the main island of Honshu. Vehicles on this bridge in the town of Kamaichi were hurled into the waters below when the quake hit as the overpass collapsed. The quake triggered a 10-meter tsunami warning affecting Miyagi, Fukushima, and Iwate prefectures. Buildings and major manufacturing and industrial zones, mostly in Miyagi Prefecture and its surrounding areas, went up in flames. Black smoke billowed from factories as workers ran for their lives. This fire erupted at an oil refinery in Chiba Prefecture, where a natural gas pipeline cracked open during the quake. Nuclear power plants were also affected, as operations were suspended immediately in case of any leaks of radioactive material. But it didn't end there. Strong aftershocks hit as people scrambled to safety while police drove through cities ordering people to evacuate to higher ground. Japan's defense ministry has deployed military planes and sent hundreds of soldiers to the disaster areas. The capital, Tokyo, also took a massive hit. Crowds spilled onto the streets from their homes and offices when the quake hit. It caused power outages in millions of homes. Passengers on subway lines said it was shaking so violently that it was impossible to stand on the train. Railway services were suspended, and Tokyo's Narita airport was closed. Bullet trains to the north of Japan were stopped as well. Sendai Airport in the north was flooded, and all ports in the country were closed. Japanese Prime Minister Naoto Kan was holding a parliamentary session when the quake struck. The meeting was called off right away as cabinet members scrambled to deal with a crisis. In a televised address to the nation about 2 hours later, Kan urged people to remain calm as they continued to feel the aftershocks.
Given the situation,
the government is making its utmost effort to minimize the damage, he said. I ask everyone to pay attention to TV and radio reports and act calmly. Kan has set up an emergency disaster task force with him as its head to deal with a crisis. He acknowledged that the quake has caused extensive damage to northeast parts of the country. The Japanese leader extended his deepest sympathies to families of victims of the disaster and promised to do all he could to ensure that rescue and relief operations were carried out to the fullest.